You will sleep in the guest wing. Down the hall. Third door on the left. Those were the first words Marcus Cole Adeyemi spoke to his wife on their wedding night. Not even her name. Just directions. Cold. Clinical. Like he was dismissing a secretary. Amina stood in the doorway of his bedroom, still wearing the white lace dress that had cost more than her family's entire yearly income. The cameras had loved it. The guests had gasped. Marcus had smiled for every photograph, his hand resting possessively on her waist, his lips brushing her cheek at precisely the right moments. But now, behind closed doors, he wouldn't even look at her. Third door, he repeated, loosening his tie without turning around. Don't make me say it again. She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded to his back and left. The marble floor felt cold beneath her feet as she walked alone down the hallway of the Ikoyi mansion. Alone. On her wedding night. The door clicked shut behind her, and Amina finally let the tears come. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we go any further into Amina's story, I need to ask you something. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps these stories alive, and more than that, it gives us the strength to keep sharing stories of hope, resilience, and unexpected love. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Are you in Lagos? London? New York? Wherever you are, you're part of this family now. 3 weeks earlier, Amina's life had been simple. Quiet. She lived in a small village in Kwara State, helped her aging mother sell vegetables at the market, and cleaned houses when she could find work. She wasn't educated beyond secondary school. She wasn't connected. She wasn't important. Until the scandal broke. A charity organization in Lagos, one that fed thousands of children and built schools across Nigeria, was accused of fraud. Millions of naira missing. Documents leaked to the press. And the woman at the center of it all, Chief Funk Adeyemi, respected philanthropist, beloved public figure, and Marcus Cole Adeyemi's late mother. The media tore her apart even though she'd been dead for 2 years. They said she'd built an empire on lies. They said someone on the inside had exposed her. They said it was a village girl who'd worked at one of their fundraising events. They said it was Amina. It wasn't true. Amina had only met Mrs. Adeyemi once, briefly, while serving drinks at a charity gala. She'd smiled. Mrs. Adeyemi had smiled back. That was it. That was the entire connection. But truth didn't matter when powerful people needed a scapegoat. The accusations spread like wildfire. Amina's name was everywhere. Blogs, newspapers, radio shows. Strangers cursed her in the market. Her mother couldn't sell vegetables anymore because no one would buy from the trader's family. Their pastor asked them to stop attending church. Amina tried to defend herself. She went to the police. They laughed. She went to a lawyer. He wanted money she didn't have. She went to the press. They only wanted more scandalous headlines. She was drowning, and no one would throw her a rope. Then Marcus Cole Adeyemi arrived from Houston, Texas. 6 feet 3 inches of controlled rage wrapped in a custom suit. American accent. American manners. American coldness. He'd been born in Nigeria but raised entirely in the United States after his father moved them to Texas when he was 5. He was CEO of an energy company expanding into West Africa. His mother's scandal threatened everything he'd built, and he blamed Amina for all of it. He didn't ask if she was guilty. He didn't investigate. He simply decided she was the problem, and he would solve her the way he solved everything else, with money, power, and absolute control. The offer came through his lawyers. Marry him, or face charges she couldn't afford to fight. Marry him, and her family would be protected. Marry him, and the media would move on. Refuse, and she'd be destroyed completely. Amina had 48 hours to decide. She chose survival. Now here she was, alone in a guest room in a mansion that felt like a prison, married to a man who saw her as nothing more than a stain on his family name. And the worst part, she was starting to wonder if he might be right. What happens when a marriage begins with hate? Can love ever grow in soil that poisoned? The first week of marriage felt like living in a museum. Beautiful, cold, untouchable. Amina learned the rules quickly. Be present when Marcus needed her for public appearances. Smile for the cameras. Play the role of the devoted wife. And the moment they returned to the mansion, disappear. She was good at disappearing. She'd been doing it her whole life. Marcus left for work before dawn and returned after dark. Sometimes she'd hear his car pull into the driveway around midnight, the engine cutting off, his footsteps heavy on the marble floors. He never came to her room. Never knocked. Never asked how her day had been. She might as well have been a ghost. The staff treated her differently than they treated him. With Marcus, they were efficient, professional, almost robotic. With Amina, they softened. The housekeeper, Mama Deli, would bring her extra food. "You're too thin," she'd whisper, even though Amina barely had an appetite. The driver, Uncle James, would ask about her mother back in Quara, making sure Amina knew her family was being taken care of as promised. "Mr. Marcus keeps his word," Uncle James said one morning while driving Amina to a charity event. "Even when he's angry, he keeps his word." Amina stared out the window at Lagos traffic, the vendors weaving between cars, the organized chaos that somehow worked. "Is he always this angry?" Uncle James was quiet for a moment. He loved his mother very much. Her death, it broke something in him. And then the scandal. He trailed off, catching her eyes in the rearview mirror. "I'm not saying what he's doing is right. I'm just saying hurt people hurt people." That night, there was a gala. Another performance. Marcus picked out her dress himself. Deep emerald green that hugged her body in ways that made her uncomfortable, but looked stunning in photographs. His stylist did her makeup. His assistant briefed her on talking points. "Just smile and let him do the talking," the assistant said, adjusting Amina's necklace. "You're here to look beautiful and supportive." "That's it." Amina nodded. She was good at following instructions. The gala was at a hotel in Victoria Island, filled with Lagos's elite. Politicians, business owners, socialites dripping in gold and designer labels. Everyone wanted to meet Marcus Cole Adeyemi, the American who'd brought millions of dollars in investment to Nigeria. And everyone was curious about his mysterious village bride. Marcus kept his hand on her waist the entire evening. Possessive, protective. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple deeply in love. He introduced her with pride. He laughed at the right moments. He even kissed her temple once, lingering just long enough for the photographers to capture it. But Amina could feel the tension in his fingers. The way his jaw clenched when someone asked how they met. The coldness in his eyes that never quite reached his smile. They were halfway through dinner when Amina excused herself to the restroom. That's when she met Vanessa Hart. The woman was stunning. Tall, with skin like polished mahogany and hair that fell in perfect waves down her back. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than Amina's entire wedding. And when she smiled, it was sharp enough to cut. "So you're the one," Vanessa said, blocking Amina's path to the bathroom. Her accent was American, smooth and confident. The village girl who trapped Marcus Cole. Amina's stomach dropped. I didn't trap anyone." "Of course you did." Vanessa circled her slowly, like a predator assessing prey. "You leaked those documents, destroyed his mother's reputation, and then played the victim so perfectly that he had no choice but to marry you to control the narrative. Brilliant, actually. I almost admire it. That's not what happened, isn't it?" Vanessa stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. "Let me tell you something about Marcus. I've known him for 10 years. We built our lives together in Houston. We were supposed to get married. And then his mother died, and he came here, and suddenly he's married to you." Amina's hands trembled. "I'm sorry for your pain, but I didn't ask for any of this. You think he loves you?" Vanessa laughed, cold and bitter. "Sweetheart, men like Marcus don't fall in love. They dominate. They control. They win. And right now, you're just another business deal he needed to close. Can a marriage survive when love is missing and enemies are circling? Find out what happens next. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Your support helps us share stories of hope and resilience with the world. Amina didn't tell Marcus about Vanessa. What would she say? That his ex-girlfriend had cornered her in a hotel bathroom and confirmed everything Amina already knew? That this marriage was a business transaction? That he didn't love her? She already lived with those truths every day. Hearing them spoken aloud by someone else just made them heavier. The days blurred together. Morning, afternoon, evening, night, each one the same as the last. Amina wandered the mansion like a spirit, touching expensive things she'd never own, sitting in rooms designed for entertaining guests who never came. Marcus continued his routine. Leave early, return late, avoid eye contact. They'd been married for 3 weeks, and he'd spoken maybe 50 words to her total. Until the night of the rainstorm. It started just after sunset. Thunder that shook the windows, lightning that turned the sky white. The kind of storm that made you grateful for solid walls and a roof over your head. Amina was in the library, a room she'd claimed as her own because Marcus never went there. She was reading, or trying to, when the lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. Darkness swallowed everything. She sat very still, waiting for the generator to kick in. Marcus had shown her nothing about the house. She didn't know where the flashlights were kept. Didn't know how anything worked. She was a guest in her own marriage. Thunder cracked again, closer this time, and Amina decided to feel her way back to her room. She moved carefully through the dark hallway, one hand trailing along the wall, trying to remember the layout. The marble floors were slippery. She should have been more careful. Should have moved slower. But then lightning flashed, illuminating the hallway for just a second, and in that brief moment of light, Amina saw the stairs. She thought she was further down the hall. She wasn't. Her foot found empty air instead of solid ground. She fell. Not far, maybe 3 steps. But enough to lose her balance completely. Enough to cry out. Enough to brace for impact with the hard marble floor below. The impact never came. Strong hands caught her, pulled her against a solid chest, steadied her before she could fall further. "Marcus, are you insane?" His voice was rough, angry, but his hands were gentle as they gripped her waist. "You could have broken your neck." "I couldn't see," Amina whispered. Her heart was racing. From the fall. From the fear. From how close they suddenly were. "You should have stayed in your room." "I was in the library." "Why?" "Because you're never there." The words came out before she could stop them. Honest. Raw. True. Lightning flashed again, and in that brief moment of light, she saw his face. He was close. So close. Closer than he'd been since their wedding photos. His hands were still on her waist. Her hands were pressed against his chest. She could feel his heartbeat. Fast. Like hers. "Amina," he said, and it was the first time he'd spoken her name since their wedding night. She looked up. He looked down. The darkness returned, wrapping around them like a secret. Neither of them moved. The air between them thickened. Changed. Became something neither of them could name. She felt his breath on her face. Warm. Unsteady. His grip on her waist tightened slightly, like he was afraid she might disappear. "We should." He started but didn't finish. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was both of them. Maybe it was neither. Maybe it was just gravity, pulling them together in the darkness. Their lips touched. Soft. Hesitant. Accidental. It lasted maybe 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds changed everything. Amina pulled back first, gasping like she'd surfaced from deep water. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean." Marcus released her so quickly she almost fell again. "Go to your room." His voice was different. Shaken. Not angry anymore. Something else. Something confused. "Marcus." "Now Amina. Please." She felt her way back down the hallway, her lips still burning from a kiss that wasn't supposed to happen. Behind her, she heard him breathing hard in the darkness. Like a man who'd just realized he'd made a terrible mistake. Or maybe like a man who'd just realized everything he believed was wrong. The wall between them is cracking. But will Marcus let himself feel what's growing? Or will he push Amina away forever? Don't forget to subscribe and join our family. Together, we're building hope through story. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince himself it meant nothing. An accident. A moment of weakness in the dark. That's all it was. But his lips still remembered hers. Soft. Warm. Real. And that was the problem. Amina was becoming real to him. Not the villain he'd constructed in his mind. Not the woman who'd destroyed his mother's legacy. Just Amina. Quiet. Kind. Impossibly gentle despite everything he'd done to her. He'd started noticing things he'd tried to ignore. The way she thanked the staff for everything, even things that were their job. The way she ate her meals alone in the corner of the dining room, as if she didn't want to take up too much space. The way she flinched whenever he raised his voice, even when he wasn't talking to her. The way she'd stopped defending herself, like she'd accepted his version of who she was. And that kiss. God, that kiss. It had cracked something open inside him. Something he'd sealed shut when his mother died. When the scandal broke. When he'd decided that control was safer than feeling anything at all. Morning came too quickly. Marcus found Amina in the garden. She was sitting on the stone bench near the fountain, still wearing her nightgown and a wrapper, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked young. Vulnerable. Nothing like the calculating villain the media had painted. "We need to talk," he said. She looked up, and he saw the fear flash across her face before she hid it. Always hiding. Always making herself smaller. "About last night," he continued, sitting down beside her. "Not too close." He didn't trust himself to be too close. That shouldn't have happened. I know, she whispered. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. The words came out sharper than he intended. He took a breath. Started again. You didn't do anything wrong. I caught you. You fell. It was an accident. Yes, an accident. But they both knew she wasn't just talking about the fall. Silence stretched between them. The fountain trickled. Birds sang. Lagos was waking up beyond the mansion walls, but here, in this garden, time felt suspended. Can I ask you something? Amina's voice was barely audible. Did you ever try to find out if I actually leaked those documents? Marcus felt his chest tighten. What? The documents. The scandal. Did you investigate? Did you look for proof that it was actually me? He opened his mouth. Closed it. The truth sat heavy on his tongue. No. He hadn't investigated. He'd been so consumed by rage and grief that when the rumors pointed to a village girl at one of his mother's events, he'd latched onto it. He'd needed someone to blame. Someone to punish. Someone to control. And Amina had been powerless enough to take it. He couldn't finish the sentence. You didn't. She said it for him. Not accusatory. Just sad. Like she'd already known the answer. You married me. You brought me into your home. You made me your wife. And you never once asked if I was actually guilty. The words hit him like physical blows. Amina, I met your mother once, she continued, her voice steady now. Stronger. At a fundraiser in Lagos. I was serving drinks. She smiled at me. I smiled back. That was it. That was the entire connection. I didn't know her. I didn't work for her organization. I didn't have access to any documents. I was just a girl trying to earn money to help my mother pay rent. Marcus felt something crumble inside him. Why didn't you tell me this before? Would you have believed me? The answer was no. He wouldn't have. He'd been so certain. So angry. So determined to make someone pay for his pain. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate. Pathetic. But they were all he had. Amina, God, I'm so sorry. She turned to look at him finally, and he saw tears sliding down her cheeks. You took everything from me. My reputation. My freedom. My dignity. You married me to punish me for something I didn't do. I know. And now what? Now you're sorry? Does that fix anything? He didn't have an answer. She stood, wrapping her arms around herself like she was holding the pieces of herself together. I need to be alone. Marcus watched her walk back into the house, and for the first time since his mother died, he felt something other than anger. He felt shame. 3 weeks passed after that conversation in the garden. 3 weeks of Marcus trying to figure out how to fix something he'd so thoroughly broken. He hired investigators. Real ones this time. They confirmed what Amina had told him. She'd never had access to the documents. She'd never worked directly for the organization. The actual leak had come from someone inside the charity's accounting department, someone who'd already fled to South Africa with embezzled money. Amina was innocent. She'd always been innocent. And Marcus had destroyed her life anyway. He started coming home earlier. Not to avoid her, but to see her. He'd find her in the library, or the garden, or the kitchen helping Mama Deli prepare dinner, even though she didn't have to. He'd watch her, this woman he'd forced into marriage, and wonder how someone could carry so much grace after being treated with so little. He tried to talk to her. Small things at first. How was your day? Did you sleep well? Would you like to have dinner together? She answered politely. Briefly. But she never lingered. Never let him get too close. The wall he'd built between them was still there. Only now he was the one trying to tear it down, and she was the one keeping it standing. Then Vanessa showed up at the mansion. Unannounced. Uninvited. Looking like she owned the place. Marcus met her at the door. What are you doing here? I came to talk sense into you. Vanessa pushed past him into the foyer. You've been in Nigeria for 2 months, Marcus. Playing house with a village girl while your real life waits for you in Houston. When are you coming home? This is my home now. Vanessa laughed. Sharp. Cruel. You can't be serious. You married her to control a scandal. The scandal's over. Divorce her and come back to Texas where you belong. I'm not divorcing her. Why? Because you feel guilty? Vanessa's voice rose. Because you finally realized you married an innocent woman and destroyed her life? Guilt isn't love, Marcus. And charity isn't marriage. I know what love is. The words surprised him as much as they surprised Vanessa. And you're right. I didn't love her when I married her. I didn't even like her. But I know her now. I see her. And what I feel is guilt, Vanessa finished. Nothing more. No. Marcus shook his head. It's not guilt. Not anymore. A sound came from the staircase. Both of them turned. Amina stood halfway up the stairs, frozen. She'd heard everything. Vanessa smiled like a hunter who'd just cornered prey. Well, this is awkward. Leave, Marcus said quietly. Now. Gladly. Vanessa grabbed her purse. But before she left, she looked at Amina one more time. Good luck living with a man who married you to silence a scandal. I'm sure that will work out beautifully. The door slammed behind her. Silence filled the mansion like water filling a sinking ship. Amina, Marcus started. She turned and walked back upstairs. He followed her. Something he'd never done before. He followed her all the way to her room, catching the door before she could close it. Please, let me explain. You don't have to explain anything. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I already know. I've always known. This marriage was never about me. It was about you. Your anger. Your grief. Your need for control. It was, he admitted. In the beginning. But it's not anymore. Then what is it now? Marcus stepped into the room. Closer. Not crowding her, but close enough that she could see his face. See the truth in his eyes. It's a second chance, he said. For both of us. I can't change how this started. I can't undo the pain I caused you. But I can choose differently now. I can choose you. Not because I have to. Not because of guilt or scandal or control. But because when I imagine my future, you're in it. And not just as someone I married to solve a problem. As my wife. My partner. The woman He stopped. The words caught in his throat. The woman you what? Amina whispered. The woman I'm falling in love with. The confession hung in the air between them. Amina's eyes filled with tears. You can't just say that and expect everything to be fixed. I know. You hurt me, Marcus. Deeply. I know. And I don't know if I can trust you. I know. He reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. But I'm asking you to try. Let me earn your trust. Let me prove that I'm not the man who brought you here. Let me be the man who deserves to keep you. She looked down at their joined hands. His dark brown against her lighter tone. So different. So complicated. So impossibly fragile. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Neither do I, Marcus said. But maybe we figure it out together. For a long moment, Amina didn't respond. Then slowly, carefully, she squeezed his hand. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. 6 months later. The morning sickness started on a Tuesday. Amina had been feeling off for weeks. Tired. Emotional. Her body felt different in ways she couldn't explain. But she'd dismissed it. Stress, probably. The emotional weight of rebuilding a marriage that had started in ruins. But when she threw up for the third morning in a row, Mama Deli sat her down at the kitchen table with knowing eyes. Child, the older woman said gently. When was your last cycle? Amina's heart stopped. She couldn't remember. The test confirmed it an hour later. 2 pink lines. Clear. Undeniable. Impossible to misunderstand. She was pregnant. Amina stared at the test in her trembling hands, emotions crashing over her like waves. Fear. Joy. Confusion. Wonder. How do you tell your husband you're carrying his child when you're still learning how to love each other? That evening, Marcus came home to find her sitting in the garden. Their garden now. The place where everything had started to change. He sat beside her without speaking. That had become their ritual. Sitting together in comfortable silence, rebuilding what had been broken one quiet moment at a time. I need to tell you something, Amina said finally. Marcus turned to her, concern immediate in his eyes. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She took a breath, gathered her courage, placed his hand on her still flat stomach. We're going to have a baby. The world stopped. Marcus stared at her hand covering his expression unreadable. Then slowly, wonder spread across his face like sunrise. A baby? His voice cracked. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Like she might disappear if he let go. He was crying too, she realized. This man who'd been so controlled, so cold, was crying tears of joy. I love you, he whispered against her hair. God, Amina, I love you so much. And this time, when she said it back, she meant it. I love you too. The marriage that began as punishment had become a sanctuary. The man who'd married her to silence a scandal had become her home. And the baby growing inside her was proof that even the most broken beginnings could lead to beautiful endings. Their story wasn't perfect. It probably never would be. There would be hard days ahead. Difficult conversations. Old wounds that needed time to fully heal. But as Marcus held her in that garden, both of them crying and laughing and dreaming of their future, Amina understood something she'd never expected to learn. Love doesn't always start with attraction or romance or even kindness. Sometimes love starts with repentance. Sometimes love starts with a man finally seeing the woman he almost destroyed and choosing to spend the rest of his life building her back up. Sometimes love starts with forgiveness that shouldn't be possible, but somehow is. And sometimes, against all odds, love finds you in Nigeria, in a mansion that felt like a prison, with a man who married you for all the wrong reasons, but stayed for all the right ones.